Hello, beautiful creative soul, and welcome back to another episode of Chakra-Care for the Creative Soul. Hello, I'm your host today, Pollyanna Blanco, and you're catching the show for the first time. I invite you to check out the past several episodes where we've been diving into spiritual hygiene and looking at the 7 embodied chakras. And today's episode is all about an out-of-body chakra, if you want to call it that is the master key to all of them. And that, drumroll please, is your soul star chakra, which is located about a foot above your head. And this out-of-body chakra is really an important chakra. And when we're talking about going beyond just balancing and opening and activating our chakras into stabilizing them, as I have been sharing with you over the past 7 episodes. In this episode, what I really want to sort of bring home, if you only have one takeaway from it, it is the power of our capacity to know ourselves beyond the individualized, ego-identified, personality-based, physical expression of who we are in this time-space reality. So this is what I'm here to share with you today. And this is such a key piece for us as light workers, because we want to make the world a better place. You know, we came here to infuse the earth with light and with love. And I'm getting a little bit feeling it clearing in my throat right now. And again, express ourselves, express our truth to the world. And so to unpack a little bit more, some of you might be familiar with this chakra. And again, there are different interpretations once we get beyond sort of the traditional physical chakras. And I'm going to just work with this one because it's out there so widely and use it as a jumping off point. In my own studies with my own spiritual teachers, Master Sri Ramkha and Master Lady Kira, we have a slightly different take on the ascended chakras. And I invite you to check out their work at sriandkira.com. They are bar none the best teachers of it. And so today, this is still going to offer, I believe, I know there's someone out there listening either live or on the replay, and I will go a little later in the call to, if you have any questions, or you just want to share some inspiration or aha moments as you've been listening to this, I would love to hear your experience and connect with you and get to know you better. I felt so guided to share about this soul star chakra because really, if you are a light worker, if you identify as even a highly sensitive person, you came here at this specific incarnation at this time on earth because you have a larger mission and vision. And whether that's yet clear or not is okay. And this is where the chakra comes into play, because it is about our soul's mission and vision. It also, as a lot of people talk about, I believe Cindy Dale talks about this too. I really respect her work. She talks about it being the gateway into the Akashic records. So all of our past soul journeys and experiences that have been written down prior to this incarnation, as well as she talks about the shadow aspect of that as well too. So it's all connected. This chakra is all connected to the larger lessons that we came here to learn. And the beautiful thing too is that, you know, it can seem very similar to the crown chakra in that the crown chakra is often associated with being that connection to being online with the divine. And yet the subtle distinction between these two energy centers is that from the crown chakra, even as we're opening to our higher self, as some people call it, or intuitive guidance, and inviting ourselves to connect with our divine expanded presence and consciousness, we are doing it still from more of an identification with ourselves as an individual human being doing that. Whereas once we cross the bridge into the soul star chakra, what we're getting into is this non-dual experience of knowing ourselves beyond that. And this is why it's such a beautiful chakra, and it's worth talking about after having talked about the 7 in-body chakras, because really, one of the things that I feel called to do in this lifetime, and it's become clearer and clearer to me through my own life's journey, is to offer sacred self-care to beautiful creative souls like yourself who are birthing their dreams into a beautiful reality. And this is why I call myself a creative midwife. Not that I'm literally a midwife, I'm not birthing physical babies, but I'm here to support you as you move through your own inner process of becoming clearer about your passion and purpose for being here. And that's such an important, juicy thing to explore in our lifetimes. Otherwise, we're just sort of, you know, I don't want to say stuck, but we can feel stuck in a way in the sort of monotony of daily living where we're just like wash, rinsing, and repeating our everyday routines and habits. And there's a bit of a disconnection, or a lot of a disconnection, from a larger vision, a greater reason for being here. And this connection to that greater vision and mission is what really offers us soul nourishment. It offers us a sense of empowerment, divine empowerment. This is not the empowerment of the ego that just says, I know I deserve and I have a right to be here as an individual human being. No, this is the divine empowerment that sees that we are, and acknowledges and accepts that we are connected to this larger network of beings of light, because that's what we truly are at our essence. We are beings of light, and that light is such a high frequency. And when we start to open and activate the soul star chakra, what we're actually doing is we are opening up to the opportunity of also shifting how we see our mission and vision. You see, in the 3D realm, it's all about the doing. And don't get me wrong, passionate action is absolutely necessary in our day-to-day lives here. Or, why did we come here, right? There's a great quote by the author of The Little Prince, Eugene de Saint-Exupéry, who said, a dream without a plan is just a wish, right? I love that quote. I'm going to say that again. Someone out there I feel needs to hear this right now. A dream without a plan is just a wish. And so if you've been finding yourself dreaming about, a better something in your life, relationship, career, financial situation, all the sort of good human things that we look for, right? Then one of the things with the soul star chakra is it can help us to begin to recognize and get clear on how we can take that passionate action, how we can step out of that, dreamy state, and I've been down this road myself, and I'm continuing to evolve through it, where we learn so much about affirmations and positive thinking and living from the end, and visualizing our desired outcome and dreams. And while that is incredibly important, doing that alone without taking the passionate action is just dreaming. And that might be a little hard to swallow sometimes, because that's the shadow side of the soul star chakra, when we are whole hog buying into, all of those beautiful esoteric practices and tools, and we are not taking daily consistent action in our human lives, right? And everything requires a process. This is not about going into doing mode. When we talk about passion action, I think sometimes there's a shadow to that too, because people can start to think passionate action means going 0 to 60, burning ourselves out, not taking care of ourselves, um, burning the candle at both ends, all those metaphors, right? And it's not that. It's about clarity. It's about knowing and connecting with what brings us joy, why we are here to, and how we feel called to serve, right? And that often becomes clearer as we heal and forgive ourselves for our life's journey up to this point. Forgiveness is an incredibly important part of working with this higher chakra, because when we can really do our inner housekeeping and begin to see with soul vision, not just the vision of our 3D eyes and our personality and our insecurities and our self-judgments and all that kind of stuff, but we can actually see with soul vision. And what that means is to claim the lessons in the lumps of life. That just came through right now. I like that. Claim the lessons in the lumps of life. There you go. Divine inspiration. Thank you. And trust me, I've had many lumps in my life, and I'm pretty much put my money on the fact, I'm not a gambler, that you have too, or you wouldn't be listening to this, or you wouldn't even be a light worker, because most light workers, as I've come to understand it on my own journey, have been paying their dues, if you want to call it that. We came here to master a lot of things. And oftentimes we can be so hard on ourselves along the way and during the process. And we can forgive people in a heartbeat because we want to see the best in everyone. And the shadow side of being a light worker is we can be so incredibly hard and unrelenting on ourselves, because we can start to feel this enormous weight and pressure that we came here for something greater. And then if we're not really clear on what it is, and if we're not taking that passionate action, and we're looking to the dreaming for relief from the lack of clarity, it can get soupy even from the best of intentioned places inside of ourselves. So really, really honestly recognizing what passionate action is and what it is not. It is about taking daily, simple, consistent, soulfully aligned action steps that honor a greater service beyond the immediate needs of the fluctuations of our emotional body, or the plot twists and turns of our mental body, or the aches and pains of our physical body, because so much is happening on earth right now. We're receiving massive infusions of light and new energetic light codes and upgrades. And whether we're conscious of them or not, we're feeling things in our body that our ego mind may not understand. And so it's really important that we have that commitment to something larger than all the flux of all of that stuff. And we also have the capacity with this energy center to begin to activate and open our capacity to see not only ourselves and what we're going through with soul vision, but others. Because if we're going through it, hello, so is everybody else too. And to have not only compassion for ourselves, compassion for other people. When people in our own lives may not be showing up from their so-called higher selves, maybe more from their ego, they might be wrapped up in themselves, or lashing out at times, or even try to hook us into their drama. It's a lot like healing. And healing, we don't cut those aspects of self away. We don't shame them. We don't make them wrong. We love them back into the light of our awareness. Now, I want to be clear when I say that if we're experiencing abusive behaviors or really toxic behaviors from people who are going through their own rebirthing process, we need to have healthy, energetic, and 3D boundaries often. And that's completely okay. Um, and at the same time, what I am saying is we can also, as we do for ourselves, recognize at least there's a real blessing and miracle in recognizing the truth of what's out picturing, that that's not who they really are. You know, when we're acting out ourselves, when our body's acting out, when our thoughts are acting out, when our emotions are acting out as we go through these rapid up levels and shifts, it's not about, putting ourselves down for it. It's not about confusing that with who we really are. We are souls, we are beings of light. And so this is a big part of spiritual hygiene. And this is why I feel like the chakra is the master key for light workers, because this is the chakra that really helps us to see beyond anything that would seek to fracture our vision, fracture our mission, fracture and divide us from one another, and keep us sort of cycling through those lower first three chakras: safety, sex, and power, holding on to grievances in the heart, biting our tongues in our throat chakra, or not wanting to hear and look at certain things, um, pulling the wool over our own eyes or others by not seeing beyond the surface level of things with our third eye, and then going into spiritualized ego, or just us against them with the crown chakra, right? So this is how this chakra is the master key in terms of spiritual hygiene for light workers, because it's really about activating that soul vision so we can live our soul mission and vision with clarity, passionate action, and purpose. And so what I want to leave you with today, because today's episode, I have set the intention, is going to be a little shorter. That's why I keep glancing down at my watch. And that's because coming up right after at 12 noon Eastern today, Master Lady Kira Ra will be on to share the November predictions for the month ahead. And I really encourage you to be there, hand on heart. If you've not yet heard of ShreeandKira.com, please go check them out. On Oneness Talk Radio, like I said, I encourage you to be on live, because you'll probably have lots of questions that can be answered in the live chat there. So I'm going to be wrapping up this episode very soon. What I do want to say, because I've sort of been all over the map and talking about a lot of different things, is that, where we put our focus is what we become. And what I found to be beautiful in my own journey with this soul star chakra is recognizing that the doing, to loop back to that, because I think I went off on a tangent for a while, just to make sure that's really clear. The passionate action of the doing of the 3D realm is, again, that's those simple, consistent, aligned action steps with patience and trusting the process, letting go of the need to control the end result. And at the same time, too, there is also another kind of passionate action that we can do in tandem that keeps this this channel that is non-dual of energy, to allow us to kind of open to our expanded self even more. There is there are beautiful kinds of practice. There's not one, but there's beautiful kinds of practices that I've started to, over the years, experience, and in tandem with doing the 3D physical action. I would say that this is also the beauty of the chakra. And that is where, in your meditations, in your visualizations, when you're walking in nature, especially, this chakra loves to nourish us through being in nature, forest bathing. I love to do that. You probably do too. Is to recognize that this is our multidimensional energy center too, where we can begin to consciously direct our focus and attention to send light and love through the planetary grid lines, the crystalline grid lines, to anchor those. You see, when we send energy through them, with our conscious awareness, with our positive, loving intentions, we strengthen them for the collective. And this is how we're also co-creating and birthing the new earth. I know I've been called in many places that I've traveled to, in particular Cozumel, Mexico, to grid. And I haven't really formally seen myself as a grid worker because, to be honest, and this is just my personal take of what feels authentic for me, I don't, I get curious sometimes about all the different terminology with all of these things, and yet I like to keep things really simple. I don't want to get too complicated and too heady about it. I just trust the process. And then when I go to share it with, on a show like this, I try to find some of the languaging to express it so it's clear, and it might also help people who are, using more of the languaging to recognize what I'm talking about. But for example, going to Cozumel, Mexico, many years ago, I met a beautiful Mayan artist, and it was just through following the intuitive breadcrumbs. I'm so grateful for that. And he's done over, probably more now, at the time when I met him, he'd done over 300 commissions of Mayan reproductions of in limestone, and he refused to use power tools because he said he didn't want it to be Mayan Disneyland, which I really respected his integrity. So and at one point he was developing carpal tunnel because he was working on this beautiful altarpiece, actually, for um, uh, a, I guess you call it more of a chapel in Cozumel that had the very first Catholic Mass ever, which was fascinating to me too because of his indigenous roots, and that's a whole other show. But he worked 12 hours nonstop on that, and his pieces have this beautiful quality to them, and he's also just carved for the pure joy of it. He did this amazing carved spiral staircase in the jungle at a place that he took me to, and it was all these different Mayan stories being depicted on, from the Popol on this spiralized staircase going into the underworld. And so I mention all of that because he very kindly took me years ago into the jungle. We cut our way through with a machete. And the most amazing thing was I first went with a friend because he didn't want me to think anything of it, like bring your friends. And then when we built trust and integrity, I went in with him several more times on my own because he was very pure of heart, as my friends noticed. And it was connected to that larger soul vision and mission, and a remembrance that was unfolding and emerging between us. And I remember as we even before we cut our way into this clearing with machetes, because it was really overgrown, there were all these beautiful, as we were driving deeper and deeper into the jungle there, all these beautiful blue morphos that kept leading us into the jungle. And he said, this is a blessing. This is a Mayan blessing because, you are listening. You are listening to your heart's calling. And I'll never forget the space. I always promised to be in my integrity. I did take photos, but I promised to never share them because this is a sacred space. There are other public spaces on the island that are Mayan ruins, like San Gervasio, but this is not that. And what I can share with you is that it was a beautiful cathedral of the earth. It was almost like when you got to the clearing, there was this long passageway, stone passageway, and it felt like my intuition, my spiritual guidance told me it was you're passing through like literally a birth canal into this womb, which is this forest, which I remember back years ago, I wrote a poem about a forest being like a cathedral. And the air quality, the frequency was magnificent, and it was massive. And then I walked over to Ishel's high altar as the high priestess, and it was this mound. It was like a big nest. And I lay in there and I offered her stones and crystals, morganite especially, high frequency love. And I sat in there and I curled up in there and I meditated in there. And I connected to some of her trees, and and I sent blessings and gratitude and thanks. And I'll always remember every time I went there, and I went there multiple times, and my soul is calling me to go back there again in the very near future. I haven't been back yet. This was prior to the pandemic, over a number of years. But I can honestly say that there was such a purity of energy in that space. And so you may notice too that whether it's a physical spirit spot, as I like to call them on earth, or energetically through your visions, your dream space, your meditation space, to nourish certain spots, or just see yourself seeing this beautiful web of light and sending um, healing, love, forgiveness, whatever you high vibrational frequency you feel called to send. Because what we focus on is what we become. And so this is perhaps bar none the best way to practice spiritual hygiene for this chakra, is to notice where our focus is. And this is why this chakra requires our focused awareness, and our commitment and our patience. And this is where we begin to open to restoring and remembering ourselves as co-creators on this earth plane and as beings of light. Because if we're sending what we most truly are into the collective, and we can do this every time we're also working on healing for ourselves, because as we heal and release the baggage, the heavy, take that heavy coat off and lighten up, then we're also nourishing through our own sincere inner work the field for others, because we are not separate from the field. The Indigenous brothers and sisters have known this for centuries and millennia, and this is where we are. We're at this beautiful point right now where we're remembering all of that again. And so, hand on heart, I want to thank you for being here and listening. And I said I'd go and check in the chat and see if there's anyone here. There may or may not be. I don't think there is. No one is. And that's okay, because I didn't get this out well in advance. I was really sitting with the topic for today's show, and I wanted to be in my integrity and share something that felt really aligned. So sometimes I don't announce the shows until a little bit later, because I'm waiting for that inspiration and I'm calling it in and I'm trusting the process. So if you do choose to comment afterwards when you're watching it, I would love to hear from you. Please drop a comment below if you enjoyed this episode. And if you haven't yet joined my In Rhythm with Your Soul free book club, which is starting today at noon Eastern time, and it's going to be running for 9 weeks. We'll take a short break, a recess over the busy holiday season and resume in January. The link to join is below. You can also send me a really quick email today at info@pollyannablanco.com so I can send you the Zoom link before it starts. And we're going to be talking about this book, 10th anniversary, In Rhythm with Your Soul, Break Through the Barriers to Being Creative. And we're going to be looking at the intro today. And it's all because I feel so called this year to really step forward and take the passionate action myself to support beautiful creative souls like yourself, to trust your creative process, to trust your co-creations that are wanting to birth, to help you to care as much for yourself as you care for the world while you're birthing your dreams. So please reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to get to hear about your journey so far. Grab a warm bevy and we'll sit down together over a Zoom call and let's see how I can support you on your beautiful, divine, creative journey. Lots of love and light, beautiful, creative soul. Be well.